Hi, and welcome to another episode of Rate That Album, a back and forth album review with myself, Paul Muad'Dib, and my good friend Joe Fremming. Joe, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
It's a good day. And since we're in October, this one should be released around Halloween, so that's good. I decided to do, it was my turn to pick an album, and I picked Hellbilly Deluxe, 13 Tales of Cadaverous Cavorting Inside the Spook Show International. Joe, what do you know about this album?
I knew I listened the hell out of it when it came out. I know it's one of the three things from Rob Zombie that I like. This, White Zombie, and the movie The Devil's Rejects.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I knew it was. It kind of brought in his solo career after he disbanded White Zombie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit. Usually we save this, but I want to talk about the reception of the album now. Because I think we're going to have very similar tastes and thoughts on what that is, like our thoughts on the album. But All Music gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Entertainment Weekly gave it a C+. Rolling Stone gave it a 3-star review. The AV Club called the album a guilty pleasure in their mixed review. Kind of going after the filler tracks and, saying, when it came out, there was kind of a divisive album, I think. I mean, now it's multi-platinum. I mean, it's sold a lot of albums, albums of it, and it came out, people didn't know what to think of it. And what do you think about that looking back?
I don't even remember it being divisive amongst our crew. I mean, everybody I knew liked this album, except for like maybe 1 or 2 people in my circle of friends, at least. But it was generally, I think this was the album a lot of us wished White Zombie could have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because White Zombie is great, but it's also, it falls into that, it bleeds into there's not a lot of standout tracks. There are, but there's not a lot of hooks or anything. And this album came out and fucking hooks and huge choruses. Like it was like, wow, why wasn't White Zombie doing this? Because I love their albums, but I always felt like that was an element that was missing in them.
I would agree with you. I mean, you look at things like More Human Than Human. It was there, like Astral Creep 2000. But I mean, More Human Than Human, it was a good track. It's a good track, but it didn't have the hooks and things like Super Beast and Dragula.
Living Dead Girl, like almost every song in this album, even like the one How to Make a Monster has like this really catchy thing, but it's layered just so it sounds like it's a song on a radio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. And the cool thing was he was pulling, for the samples and things like that. We talked about that with the Wu-Tang Clan, how they were pulling samples from martial arts movies. He was pulling samples from horror movies, like especially the 70s and 60s horror films, to put into this album, which is just really, really cool. And I think the big thing for me on this album that I think really sets it apart from the White Zombie stuff is production. Like this is produced so well.
Yeah. It's really well produced. Again, this kind of like, when I bought this, and this is a really good headphone album.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like, in the production, there's layers and things. It's basically listening to like a freak show haunted house set to music. It really has like that depth in it. It just kind of puts you on a journey. Kind of like when you like listen to Queen, like A Day of the Races, A Night at the Opera, stuff like that. Dark Side of the Moon. downward spiral. It has that atmosphere that just kind of puts you in a different world.
Well, and I think the opening of it, called The Zombie, it totally sets the tone for what you're getting into. Because, I mean, yeah, it's absolutely starts with the creepy little doll music and the little girl speaking. And then you hear like a door creaking and all this stuff. And then it jumps right into Super Beast. And you go, yeah, absolutely. The one thing, and I don't remember this, Joe, and maybe you can correct me on this one. I don't know if it was the version I was listening to or if it was. I don't remember Living Dead Girl ending so abrupt. Like the version I was listening to, it just Living Dead Girl goes right to the next one. Like there was no ending to the song. Is that right, or am I misremembering?
That doesn't sound right to me. There is a censored version of this album. I accidentally bought that when it came out. I bought it at Target. So there is a censored version of this. And you might have, it does have edits and things that are, taking out obscenities and stuff. So maybe that's what you're listening to?
I don't know. I don't think it was the censored version, but maybe it was. And that's a problem.
My God, this is embarrassing.
Well, no, and I think it's funny that in New Zealand, speaking of the unrated version, this was rated in New Zealand R16 for violence, offensive language, and sex scenes. Sex scenes in an album what is that?
I mean, there's a lot of more. Like that just kind of throws me through a loop because there's a lot more offensive music out. This is pretty tame.
It's fairly
especially for like the horror genre of music. If you listen to like a lot of horror themed music, it can get really dark, and this is pretty light considering.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even put this in this. I mean, this for a horror thing. People, when I think again, like we get into black metal. This is not.
no, it's horror. This is a genre of horror. I mean, that's like where the Misfits and Sam Hain with Danzig kind of fall into, and White Zombie, Rob Zombie. What's that hip hop group? They did like People Under the Stairs group.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there was this like. There's like horror themed hip hop and stuff. So but this is pretty benign compared to some of that, especially if you listen to like, it's hard to find because it's no longer in print, but those Sam Hain albums Danzig did were pretty fucking, dark.
Well, even What's His Nuts that did Warren Zevon did a song called A Most Peculiar Boy, right? He's known for Wolves of London and a song about a rapist. I mean, what the fuck? So you can, I put Warren Zevon on that list too I remember doing doing Peculiar Boy for karaoke. And like just freaking people out, like what the fuck? So it was Halloween, so I did Wolves of London, and then I did that one, and Wolves of London people love, but the second one I got looks like I was like I killed someone's puppy, doing that song, and which is what I love walking off stage, like yes, I scored. Overall, I credit this. It's a great album, but I also think it also kind of fed into Rob Zombie becoming many, many things, right?
And he's not very good at those many things.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. Like I said, like when I said there's literally 3 things of his I enjoy. Like I'm not lying. I remember I've seen him live 3 times. First time was on this tour, and it was
that would have been great.
It was fucking great. Sherry Moon was in like a go-go cage and shit. It was like their guitars were filled with fake blood and they're spitting it on the audience. That was awesome. Then I saw him at Ozfest '99, and he was pissed drunk, and it was one of the most horrible live performances I've ever seen. He puked backstage, but he still had his mic on, so we all got to hear that.
Oh no!
Yeah,
he pulled a Jimmy Page, huh?
yeah. And then I saw him here in Fargo like a few years ago. He was touring with Marilyn Manson, and that was better. That was better than him vomiting on backstage.
Oh my God!
Although I thought Manson's performance was more interesting, but that's just.
Yeah, I could. I would think Manson would be interested in this. Well, not now. He got me too. No. Now, no.
Now that we know what Manson really is, yeah, I wouldn't see him. But before all that came out, before we knew that, like I was like, oh, that's interesting and whatever. But yeah,
it's the mighty they fall, sir. The ragged they come and the ragged they kill. That's the other thing I want to bring up as well. You talk about this being tame. There's a lot of nonsensical lyrics in this album.
It doesn't bother me, considering it's like Dragula is a fucking banger of a song. Like,
right?
If you're gonna have like a huge chorus like that, I guess like it's like "Come Together" by the Beatles. As long as it's a good song, I guess I don't give a shit about the lyrics. Like, I'm not expecting Neil Young style lyrics from fucking Rob Zombie.
No, not at all. But I mean, I pull up like Super Beast. It doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Stir the limbs across the wrist, full possession of my memory. Bury me as a dog, icy hands surrounding me. Okay, sure. You said stuff.
Yeah. It's another interesting element of this album. It's the content of the songs and the lyrics are very reminiscent of the Misfits. Mm-hmm. Like Danzig did a lot of, that's what their thing was horror movie imagery and comic book imagery, which Zombie really, like, this album sounds like it's a few woes away from being a fucking Misfits, the best Misfits album ever.
I would agree with you on that, sir. Yeah, I mean, there's great imagery, but the lyrics don't make sense a lot of times, and it doesn't have to, because he's just painting a picture. Yeah, he's using a lot of adjectives.
Yeah, it's doing the job. And like this, it's a horror. This is like it's like a fun house, like, set to music or whatever, like a haunted house set to music, like. The lyrics are, and that's a weird thing when the lyrics are inconsequential to like the sounds you're hearing. That's like very rare for me to like appreciate that, because like you, I'm a lyric guy.
Yep.
But when it comes to this album, I don't give a shit about the lyrics.
Right. That's what I mean. Like I get the picture, I hear what you're painting, and I like it. And it doesn't matter to me that's nonsensical, because you're putting the right adjectives out there. It doesn't have to make sense for me to get the imagery in my head that this is the horror theme and the haunted house in my head and everything like that. Like, you're nailing it. But again, I will say it's nonsensical and tame.
Yeah, it's very nonsensical. It's like listening to Bob Dylan.
Fair enough, sir. Now let's talk a little bit about Tommy Lee, because Tommy Lee was on this album. Did you know that?
Yeah, actually, I remember reading something about that.
Yeah,
when the album came out,
he did.
He's a good drummer. Like, I have nothing. Motley Crue is not music I like, but I can appreciate Tommy Lee's drumming. Like, it's one of those things where, like, he's a hell of a drummer. I will not take that away from him. I'll hate him forever for that Monsters of Mayhem band he did.
Oh God, that's so bad.
That was a bad step.
Yeah,
that was worse than having his sex tape stolen from him and released.
Oh, do you think that was really stolen, or don't you think that was leaked for publicity? I'm on the latter, sir.
Are you blaming the victims, Paul? Wow. All right.
I'm a victim shamer on that one. Yes, sir. I sure am. He did tracks on Meet the Creeper and the Ballad of Resurrection of Joe and Rosa Hoare. Again, there's a title on here called The Ballad of Resurrection Joe and Rosa Horror. All right. What lurks on Channel X? Return of the Phantom Stranger. I mean, you can tell that he loved himself some old school horror movies.
And I, as a fan of old school horror movies, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's talk some more a little bit about this. So in the United States, this album has been 3 times platinum. Now,
it was a huge album when it came out. Like, you know, like, so you brought up those reviews, and like, I was generally confused when you said it was like mixed reactions because everybody owned this album.
See, that's how I felt, but apparently among the critics, it was. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, it topped at number 5 on the Billboard 200. Everywhere else, like the UK, was at 37, Swedish 45, New Zealand 19, Canada, it hit number 2. It was a bigger hit in Canada than it was in the United States.
Yeah, but I mean, we're really going to talk about international. Like, a horror genre is not really going to go over that well, even though they mastered, like Europe mastered the film genre of horror. You know, just look at Suspiria, like, fuck, top that, people. But yeah, I mean, it's such a niche album, but it came out at that perfect time in the late 90s where it was right before everything started turning to shit music-wise with those idiots like in Stained and Disturbed and The Puddle of Sadness or whatever. Like, yeah, it was a bunch of shit after this album came out. Limp Bizkit, fuck. That was
well, that's new metal. Now we're getting into like the new metal, the rap metal.
That's what was popular after this came out, man.
Yeah. Dude, I totally blacked out that genre of music. Like anyone that thought that was the future of music, I knew was going to burn in hell. So yeah, no, I mean yes, internationally, but even again, like as I said, it was even here. There was people that just at the time didn't like it. Now it's back. You know, now it's looked at more fondly. You know, as people look back and go, "Oh man, it's a great album," because it was a great album. There's a reason why 3 million copies are sold, and again, everyone I knew had it. So. Fuck off there.
Dragula was on the radio all the time.
Yes. I mean, you couldn't. Yes, it was. And it still is.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't listen to radio anymore. So.
Well,
I'll just have to take your word for that.
No, it still is. It's still out there. So, all right, let's talk about highlights and lowlights. What did you like? What is there tracks that you don't like?
There's not really tracks I don't like. There's just tracks that just kind of, you know, it's there, it's filler, it's a transition. Like, you know, what lurks on Channel X or that sort of shit. But no, I mean, for me, I mean, I love Super Beast, Demonoid Phenomenon, Spook Show Baby. Yeah, I mean, Meet the Creeper. Like, yeah, this like it's a lot of good. Like, you know, but then you got Ballad of Resurrection Joe and Rosa Horror and what lurk. I mean, they're you'll never see them perform these live because they're not really much of songs. You know what I mean? Like they feel like more like atmosphere.
Yes. Yeah, it's not filler; it's atmosphere.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
It continues the journey you're on when you're listening to it.
And I would completely agree with you on that one. Like, I don't think there's really what I would consider a quote weak song on here. I think it all goes, like I said, the minute Call the Zombie kicks in. I mean, I was listening to it with my kids in the car, and that came out, and my kids like, are you watching a zombie? Like, are you watching a horror movie? I'm like, no, it's a song. It's an album, you know. So right away, like even they got it. Like, whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, is the Ballad of Resurrection Joe and Rosa Horror and What Lurks on Channel X amazing songs? No. I mean, if they were put on a different album, I'd probably go, what the fuck is this? but because it's here and it fits what the story's being told or the narrative, and I shouldn't even say, when I say story, not that there's a cohesive story here.
It's like the experience almost. The experience
Yes.
of the album.
Yep. And it's a short album. It's only 38 minutes. It's not very long.
Yeah, and and I listened to this, and trust me, I've tried to like his other solo albums, and it just not happening. Like This is like the most focused I think he's ever been musically,
mm-hmm.
and it
shows.
Immediately he lost that focus with the follow-ups. I mean, when your debut solo album's like this good, you kind of fuck yourself
a little bit. Yeah.
I mean, now I liked Educated Horses a little bit. Like I thought that had some okay songs on it, but I think after this he got so wrapped up in his movie career that I don't think he had the focus for an album like he used to.
No. And the other thing I'm going to say on this, even though I like the album, not one of these songs actually made it onto my playlist because I like to listen to it I like to experience it as the album. I don't think there's a lot of songs outside the album that because I having listened to it and just the way I've been listening to it, and I think even when I was a kid listening to it, it was always in like as an album, not like a standalone track. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I wouldn't put these on a mix just because I've heard these songs so many times. Like I burned myself out on this album when it came out. Like I listened to it that much. I still love it, but it's like I don't need to hear all this. If I'm going to sit down, like you said, and listen to these songs, I'm just going to listen to the straight up the whole album because I've heard them all on the radio and shit. It's like Led Zeppelin. I don't need to throw any of their music on a playlist just because I've heard it so many times. Like,
right.
If I'm going to listen to Led Zeppelin, I'll just listen to the fucking album.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. That's how I'm going to do it too. I'm going to listen to it on the album. And yeah, I'm kind of burnt out on it. But again, I'm also used to what's coming in and what's coming out. You know what I mean? Like what's the intro to that song and what's the outro to that song? So if I put something on my playlist from this album and then it doesn't go to that song, it's jarring.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Joe, would you recommend this album?
Yeah, I love it. I love this album. It's like I said, I listened to the hell out of it. Like I listened to it more than I should have. As a young lad in central Minnesota. But yeah, I absolutely. This is a fun Halloween album. You don't even, even outside of Halloween, it's a fun it's just a fun album to listen to.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a fun album to listen to, and I'd recommend it. Again, I'm not making any claims here or anything. I'm not putting down my mom, but my mom loves this album. And so again, it's if my mom can rock out to this album, it's not horrible. You know what I mean? Like it's again how it got knocked in New Zealand for violence, offensive language, and sex scenes in it. When my mother, who was in her late 40s, was listening to it. Hell, I'm in my 40s and I'm listening to it. What the fuck? So it's
come full circle, Paul.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right, Joe. What the fuck are we doing next week?
I want to stick with the horror theme.
Oh, I like that.
So I'm going to go to the guy that kind of inspired Rob Zombie. We're going to do Danzig 3, How the Gods Kill.
Ooh, we're doing Danzig 3, huh?
Yeah, Dirty Black Summer, buddy.
All right. I can totally dig that.
Before he went full chucklehead and put out some of the worst albums I've ever heard in my life.
This will be interesting because I don't think I've listened to Danzig 3 all the way through.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a theory that I think that Jim Morrison faked his death and became Danzig.
Well, Jim Morrison became a real real chucklehead.
Jim Morrison was a chucklehead.
I hate Jim Morrison.
He was always
Great
a chucklehead.
voice, but like just a raging piece of shit.
Was not a great guy. Was not a great guy. No.
No, he was a piece of shit. Amazing voice, but like a real piece of shit.
Tell me how you really feel, Joe.
God.
Are you serious? Because I loved him and I loved Val Kilmer. No. The Doors made him seem like such a nice guy.
Oh boy, yeah, and I think that movie probably played down a lot of his assholishness too. Like,
oh, I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah. Well, at least the movie has Agent Cooper in it, you know.
Hey, gotta love Agent Cooper. So, all right. Well, Joe, do you want to take us out?
No, God.